All right, everyone, let's welcome
Please
Ricky.
don't.
Well, hey, you're the thing that brings the eyes. I'm the thing that brings the giggles.
We are so excited.
Yeah, we got
about-
Ricky Hatch coming on. He's running for auditor of the great state of Utah. I know, everyone.
wanna
It
say-
sounds super boring
No,
when I
during
say
convention-
auditor, but it's important. It is one of the most important positions in your state. He's the guy that makes sure that people. Have you heard of the
It's
governor?
the watchdog. And when
The-
I introduced the auditors for a convention, I was like, nerds. And what's so funny, and please bring Ricky up.
Yeah, let's bring him on right
What's
now.
so funny is my kids got me their little stuff from convention, and they had me a box of nerds, and it has your name on it.
He was giving out nerds.
I didn't even see that candy before I made that funny nerd gesture. So we're on the same wavelength, Ricky.
Good. I'm glad someone's eating it because I don't want the dozens of boxes at my house. That's for sure.
Well, you'll have plenty to hand out at convention, I assume.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, so we know your job. We know after, lots of thought into what the county auditor here does and then what the state auditor on that level does. I mean, you are kind of asking for a job where you're going to be an island, where you and your office can either be hated or loved by any elected, any citizen, any business, any law enforcement officer. Like, you guys have to be the watchdogs for us to make sure that the federal or the state dollars and the activities at the state level are all on board, right?
Yeah, it's certainly not the most popular kid in school. The state auditor is. And that's our job. And there should be a natural tension between state auditor and just about everybody else. Doesn't mean we have to be mean, and it doesn't mean we can't like and work and collaborate with them. There are several areas in the state auditor's office where you really do need to collaborate with your local government officials, with the other state agencies. And that's crucial. To be an effective auditor, you have to have good relationships with these folks so that they know it's not personal. So that when I come in and I put on my referee cap and I am objective, I'm not going to cut you any favors. I'm not going to turn a blind eye if you're my best buddy, and I'm not going to come after you if you're a political enemy.
So, and I don't know if a lot of people know, but, we're unincorporated where I live in Stansbury Park. We have a service agency, and then we have a greenbelt agency. And they both just voted to raise our taxes 104% in each.
Ouch.
And this is after they'd had an embezzlement that went on for close to 2 years, and it was $1 million. Now, you know that they don't get the sorry, I didn't know when it comes to mishandling of funds or maybe properly alerting the taxpayer of their truth in taxation stuff. They don't get I didn't know type of response because they're literally taking money from us at gunpoint, so to speak. But now me, the citizen, I've been able to call John's office and say, hey, will you please look into this? Because this is insane. We don't know what's going on. I feel like the board is not, cohesive. They're not getting along, or they're not on the same page. And yet we need extra eyes. And our state auditor has come in and take a look, or sent someone from his office. Can you explain, what's your experience? And have you ever had an experience with a state situation? Because we're talking tons of money.
Lead us out with what your current position is. You're the county clerk for Weber County, correct?
Yes, I'm the clerk and the county auditor. So
Okay.
Allison McCoy and Tracy Shaw mixed into one person.
In fact, we used to have it that way. And then we voted when we became a city to separate powers. And I absolutely love that we did.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I suspect that our county will do that within probably whenever I leave office there, they'll split that because it's a lot. That's a broad swath of work to do.
It is. And with election integrity and everybody wants election integrity. Everyone wants that whole focus in the clerk's office to be about those safe and proper elections.
Yeah.
And honestly, what kind of auditor can audit that when they're in the same office? It just, to me, doesn't make sense to keep them combined, not this day and age.
Yeah, you're right. And the weird thing is I'm probably one of 3 people in the whole state of Utah that is an expert in auditing and an expert in elections. And I've been so shocked at how many times I've had to take off my elections hat and put on my CPA auditor hat and really dive into elections through the lens of a CPA, through the lens of an auditor. That's been really meaningful, and I've helped write legislation to help get that type of perception statewide and baked into state law. So it's a unique kind of combination or confluence of different worlds.
If there was ever a question about elections in the state of Utah, would the auditor have anything to do with that? Because a lot of people don't like that the lieutenant governor's office handles elections when they are actually one of the seats that's getting elected. Would an auditor ever go in and audit elections?
You know, the state auditor has dabbled a teeny bit into the world of elections, but John has generally left that aside, left that to the lieutenant governor's office, attorney general, and particularly the office of the legislative auditor general. However, the state legislature can reassign or assign additional duties to the state auditor in relation to elections and auditing. They can do that through the legislative process. And if that's the case, I would be ready to step in. And I really think I'd be really the best qualified person in the state to do that, because I've been doing it for so long and I have both of those backgrounds.
That would honestly, even just to hand over the governor's election, I think would be ideal. Because even if it is all on the up and up, there's always going to be that question where an ancillary position is reliant on that election.
Oh, you're right. And you know, there's a movement to get a Secretary of State in Utah, and a lot of people have asked me about that. And really, there's no perfect form. There's no perfect solution. You have the lieutenant governor that oversees elections in Utah. They don't process any ballots. That's all done by the county clerks. But they do oversee. They do some auditing. They do a lot of training, and
they make decisions prior to the election. They decide what equipment will be used
and who can be on
how everything's going to look. Yeah, which I think that should be. Even if I was the lieutenant governor, I wouldn't want that position. I would want that pushed somewhere to someone who is an outside body. I would honestly like to see, like, say, woman voters organization, just a total outside of government body run it to where it's nonpartisan and totally no one that touches control.
Accountability, though, and you have to have you have
can
to
still have all
elected or appointed, and then if they're appointed, the person who appoints them is going to still have that thought that, oh, they work for that person. Even like a Secretary of State, would we vote for that person? And
that's
who runs their election. You know what I mean? It's always going to be, because if we do it right and you're elected, you're always going to have people.
That's why I like someone outside of government, someone outside that's nonpartisan that can run at least that election, and then let the lieutenant's governor run all the other elections. That's fine.
Right.
But that's
the counties running their elections.
The lieutenant governor has say about how those are ran, what they're done with, but let that one be decided by someone else.
And your conversation is exactly why this shows that this is such a complex decision, because Secretary of State sounds like a great idea, and it might be, but they're also elected. And then you have independent governing boards that are appointed, but they have allegiances to whoever appoints them. It's really kind of complex, and there's no silver bullet to this one. I do like that Lieutenant Governor Henderson did in this election. She has given up all decision-making authority over elections and given that to a former Lieutenant Governor, Gail McKechnie, who is now running that until after November, after the election is done. So that's a good concession.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer on what really is the best format, because each one has its pros and cons,
Right. Well, surprise.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely right. I just wasn't it before Ross Perot shook it up. It was like a women's voters organization that ran the debates nationally.
Probably the League of Women Voters is my guess.
Something like that. They ran them. But after Ross Perot, the Republicans and Democrats said, we can't let no more independents need to even have a voice in the United States. They pulled the national debates, away from the woman's whatever that ran it. And now they run it, and they've controlled it because Ross Perot got in there and shook the foundation,
Yeah. Boy, he really did. That's an old name that I haven't thought of for a while.
Yeah. Talk about a guy that broke down into numbers. Whew.
Yeah.
I was too young to really matter then, but man, it's outstanding.
So tell us what's made you decide that you want to leave Weber County and go work up at the state?
I tell you, it was a little bit of madness. I absolutely love what I do right now. I love serving the people. I love serving at a local level. People have been asking me for years to run for state auditor. In fact, some people asked me to run against John Dougal, and I said, "Are you nuts?" First off, he's doing a fantastic job. Secondly, he's probably the best campaigner I know. I'm just not interested. And he and I have talked off and on over the years. I sit on his advisory council. I actually nominated him at the state convention back in 2012 when he first ran. So we've collaborated. I really like I love what he's done with the office. And as we've talked quite a bit over the past year, and he was trying to decide what his next move was. Was he going to retire, run for another office, or run for re-election? We talked about possible replacements. And, he's not endorsing in this race, and that's the right thing to do. Many things that he said helped cement in my mind that I would be a good person to come in and continue the good work that he's done, and even be able to improve on that. And I have a little bit of the imposter syndrome. I think sometimes I think I'm not nearly as smart or as politically understanding and skilled as Mr. Dougal. But as I've looked at that and talked with several other people, what John showed me is how to serve at a local level, but to do it in a larger neighborhood like the state. And the thought of bringing the skills that I've acquired over the past 30 years in elections, but also in auditing in government and private, the thought of bringing that statewide instead of just the citizens of Weber County, that makes me excited. And that's when I decided back in December that that's what I was going to do. So that's why I'm running. I love serving, and I love anything I can do to help government be more efficient, to hold government more accountable. I think that's great.
I love John Dougal. I think that when you talk about a man like him, his character and his integrity is incredible, and his humility. And I see that in you. You've got that humility, like I'm out of my league, but then you add the fact that you have 30 years of experience in both of these things. Obviously, you're not out of your league, but I think it's what he's done, and especially working with our treasurer, with Marlo Oakes, and having those two actually have such a great line of communication and understanding. It's sad. It's sad that we're going to lose him, but I think that both of the candidates in this race, from our side at least, are incredible humans that are far smarter than I am, and I'm excited that it's. What are you doing?
It's a good choice.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
My co-host here wants to play with the computer, and now
I am clicking on the comments while you.
I really just appreciate the fact that you put your hat in the ring. And Weber County, you guys in good shape there? Have you had anything exciting?
Yeah, always exciting up in Weber County. And it's funny because a lot of people have come up to me and said, I really don't want to vote for you for state auditor because we want to keep you here.
Oh, yes, the catch-22.
Oh, if our county clerk were to say, hey, I'm out of here, I'm running something else, I probably would cry real tears.
Yeah, and I love both your county clerk and your county auditor. And
no, they're amazing.
And you guys, Tooele's had some rough times over the past few years with finances, and you really have rebounded nicely, especially from the control standpoint within your government. I think Allison McCoy is just phenomenal, and really enjoy working with her.
She really is. And when we had the change of government, that's when I discovered, that John Dougal was knocking on the door of our county, and Allison has been absolutely amazing. She is so smart, and she's learning. A lot of people learn on this job to be auditors. It's, well, as you don't just walk in with all this experience. You usually have to learn on the job, and it's different working a county versus the state even. So You probably will have a lot to learn at the state level, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of my biggest mantras that I say to myself is, I could be wrong. I think that is such a healthy thing to think, because so many times, especially in politics and government, you come and you think you have the answer when you only understand 5% of the situation. And so people say, what are you going to do when you get into office? I'll tell you, one of the first things and biggest things that I'll do is listen. I'm going to go listen and ask questions and be a sponge, and I'll talk to people in the office. I'll talk to people, former employees, people outside of the office, and just learn as much as I can. I've already started doing that, but I have a campaign I have to run. So that's I'm a little bit distracted there, but I think continuous improvement and self-improvement, and recognizing that you don't have all the answers, no matter how smart you think you are or how big your position you think is. And we can always learn. And that's what I plan to do.
So I think just to explain to people exactly how big a deal it is. Now, let's say something's going on in our legislature, ladies and gentlemen, where they voted for funds that's supposed to go to education, for example, and that money instead went to build some sort of infrastructure or anything like that. Now, these are the legislators, the lawmakers, overseen by the governor of Utah. That's when an auditor comes in and is usually, you're in there throughout the processes, correct?
Yes, the state auditor can get involved during the legislative process as they're crafting bills. I've worked with John Dougal on a heavy number of bills related to that exact thing that you're talking about. What are the best, how is this structured best financially? So the auditor gets involved before, but also after. In fact, after is even more. And if somebody is spending taxpayer dollars, whether it's a local entity or whether it's state or even federal dollars that have come in, they're fair game for the state auditor. Because we're there to protect your pockets. We're there to really make sure that any dollars that are spent efficiently, they're spent legally, they're recorded properly, and that they align with the intent that they were established in the first place. Whatever the legislature decided they should be spent. We have to check that. And sometimes it's not easy, especially when people sometimes will try to hide transactions to get them where they want to go. And that's when the auditor has the tough job and the unliked job of really digging and asking the hard questions and pushing. That's what good auditors do.
Well, that's what I mean when I say watchdog, because ladies and gentlemen, what he's doing is following that process start to finish. And to a legislator, maybe it's just a couple $1 million towards education, but instead let's put it into roads, all good things, but that's not what the law said. And that's when the auditor has to come in and go, hey, I represent Utah, and you represent us, the taxpayer, and you say, you are not in compliance with your own law. And so that's why, like, how many, do you get endorsements? Do you seek endorsements from legislators, from people? Because I imagine one day you're their friend, but the next day you could very well be their enemy. You kind of have to be an island of yourself.
Absolutely. A lot of people have come to me with endorsements. And I'll be honest, yes, I have received endorsements probably from about 200 people across the state. Very few of them are people that I would actually audit. The state auditor doesn't audit the legislature. They audit the spending of funds by whoever executes the law that the legislature puts together. But, you know, even if all of my funds came from somebody and all my endorsements came from people that I would audit, I have a track record as the county auditor of being objective, independent, and being a watchdog. And I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine who contributed to my campaign, was an elected official in Weber County years ago, went outside of the procurement laws and policies. And so I had to audit. And I went in and told him, I said, look, you shouldn't have done this. We're going to have to expand this audit and dig deeper. And he wasn't pleased. He didn't want that. He asked me not to. And I said, look, I have to. I represent the people. I have to do this audit. But he knew it wasn't personal. And we did the audit, and it actually uncovered additional findings and made his life quite difficult. But the thing is, whether it's, the average donation to my campaign is like $250. If that were 250,000 or even 250 million, I have to look at myself in the mirror in the morning. I have to be able to sleep at night. And my inner moral compass is so fine-tuned. I feel bad if I step on an ant. It just bugs me a little bit. And the thought of using an audit as a political weapon or turning an eye because somebody gave me a few bucks, that is so distasteful to me. I can't even imagine. It just turns my stomach to think about. So, but what I do think these endorsements mean and represent is people that you trust, the Allison McCoys, the Sheriff Wimmers of the world. They have in turn turned around and said, we endorse you. We trust him and we feel that he would do a good job. I am sure Allison, when she endorsed me, she had zero expectation that I would cut her a favor in any case. And I've told people that as they've either contributed or talked to me about it. I've said, look, this does not change our relationship. It doesn't change how you and I interact. And it's not going to soften any auditing that I might do if that comes up. So it's a hard thing because you want to stay completely independent, but you can do that and still get endorsements, I think, because I've shown it. I've shown how that happens.
Well, I mean, with every office that we've interviewed, you have to be able to trust the person you vote for at every level, and you're just going to have a job that's a lot under a microscope. I think endorsements are good. You just named two people that are very important people out here in our county, and to get their endorsement goes a long way with the citizens of our county. But
yeah.
They also understand that, just like if the sheriff is endorsing you, that if you're in a DUI in our county, he's not going to not have you get a DUI because he endorsed you, just like you're not going to not audit if you're supposed to. So that's just trust, and that's integrity. And you hope that your electeds have it.
Yes, and it really should go both ways. And that happened as well. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a developer in my office who asked a question. He said, I want to talk to you about this particular development situation. And I've made a donation to your campaign. And I said, that's great. Let's stop right there. Thanks for the donation. Just know that has zero impact on how you and I interact. That has zero impact on how I treat you. You'll get the same professional treatment, whether or not you donated. And he stopped for a second. He said, thank you for sharing that. And he said, that's the exact same way I feel. Regardless of how you interact with me, I still want you to be our state auditor. And it was a mutual respect and a mutual independence. And that's really that's really how it is. If anyone were to come and say, I'll endorse you if you, grant me this special favor or whatever, I would not accept that endorsement or contribution. Absolutely not, because I don't want any expectations. I've been really clear with that when I've talked to folks.
I wish more people in our government felt that way. So when you get there first day, what's the first thing you would tackle as Utah State Auditor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would be a sponge and observe and learn their policies, learn their how they do their audit rotation, how they look at the risk throughout the state to determine where to go to audit. I would sit down with all of the leaders. One area that I think really could use some help in that office deals with the local governments. So I'll have to get a little bit nerdy here. There's a local government auditing division that has 3 people in it. I know the director of that division. He's a former county auditor, and so we've worked together for years. And he's a good guy, very smart, very capable, CPA, just a fantastic guy. He heads up that division, and their responsibility is to ensure consistency and compliance in reporting of these local entities. There are 1,800 of local entities throughout the state of Utah. Most of them don't even have a full-time employee. They're so small, let alone an accountant, but they still have to comply. And this portion of the office is mandated by statute to provide resources to help ensure that they get it right. I think they could do a better job with outreach. And I've talked to them about this. They have a local government roundtable once a year in January, and they invite everybody to participate. And there's about 30 of us on there, and it's great. It's very collaborative. It's very helpful. But and I told them this past January, I said, hey, rather than doing this once a year, we should be doing this once a month. And rather than 30 people, we should have 300. And I have some ideas on how we can do that, working with the league to help get the word and the training out up front. It's so they don't have to wait for an audit finding to fix the problem. It's like putting a fence at the top of the cliff instead of having an at the bottom.
Yeah. What about like a how-to website? Hey, so you're starting a new city, Stockton, Utah. Do you want to get your stuff in order? Here's hot links to videos we made on how to keep track of your books.
That's a great idea.
Population of 20.
You should come work in the state auditor's office.
No. Intelligent people over there, barely evolved ape away from government.
He'll just eat the nerds out of the bowl.
Dude, I will be in the corner eating with my hands and grunting and sniffing. Don't put me anywhere near government.
Well, and they do some of those trainings, which is great. They have some videos, they have some tutorials, which is fantastic. Another challenge that they have is, and I've heard this a lot on the campaign trail, as local government finance people come to me, they say, well, I'll be honest, I don't trust the state auditor's office. I don't feel comfortable going to them to ask a question because I'm afraid it'll turn into a news story or it'll turn into an audit when all I want is a little bit of guidance to make sure I'm doing it the right way. And I think we can fix that. And as I've talked with them, I talked about maybe we do a roadshow and we have, or several roadshows where we go through the state and we talk to them on their turf. We talk to them in their towns and see what they are dealing with, and build those relationships of trust so that they can call the state auditor's office and say, look, I think something might be wrong, but I'm just not sure, and not fear that we're gonna, go call KSL or call the news or anything like that. I really want to have that relationship of trust. Now, it doesn't mean there's not going to be tension. Oh, we'll always have tension, and that's how it should be. The auditor should provide that tension, and people should be concerned that an auditor might find something. But it doesn't mean we can't collaborate. And I love the concept of working with them up front, get it done right the first time, and that's better for everybody. And it's cheaper. It's more efficient.
Absolutely. And you should be a tool to those folks. Because again, you represent those folks too. if in fact something were to go down where they needed your assistance. I think that having a training or something, or having that relationship where new cities, for example, before
Or
they've made any
old
mistakes at
cities
all,
that
like Erta, who's just becomes a new city, or Lake Point, who just became a new city. It'd be nice. I think that Dougal's people have done this, but to have a little meet and greet where, okay, and here's the state auditor, and this is the expectations, this is your filing deadlines, this is what's expected in these deadlines, and just very open, and then this is your person to contact if in fact you have a question. So
yeah, and they have done a good job. I think we can do better. That's on day one. That's one area that I would focus on.
excellent.
yeah.
Well, so where do you see it going? Like, what do you see the office doing? Do you see any potential for growth? Do we have enough people in it to cover what's going on right now in the state now? Because we're growing. We've got a lot of IT companies. We've got a lot of, AI. There's so much that's going on that I'm wondering if we have a big enough auditor's office.
Does the state auditor get involved in private corporations, or is that only when the private corporation has contact with public funds?
It's really just governmental entities. If there's a private organization that receives taxpayer dollars, then the auditor can, then it's fair game. But generally, we're here to protect the citizens from their government, make sure that they're doing things right.
But that's it. Like these software companies, a lot of them are getting tax breaks.
Well, they're going to make cities swell, so that'll keep you busy.
Things like that. I'm just wondering, like, if the bigger it grows, how many people are in the auditor's office, and how many people? I mean, is it? How big's the office?
There are 45 people in that office, and I know that they've tried to get some additional funding. I know John went and tried to get additional funding last year, and wasn't able to get it out. And certainly, we don't need to balloon the office, but the legislature keeps handing assignments over to John because he does a good job. But with those assignments, you probably need to have some resources as well.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to look at what kind of value proposition he provided to the legislature. I think a good internal auditor or a good auditor really pays for themselves by finding the fraud and finding the waste. But that doesn't mean we should go out and hire 100 new auditors. We've got to be smart about it.
Oh, the IRS did it, and they armed them.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah, and we could use technology better. I was an IT auditor when I first started my career. I did that for 7 years.
Hold on. So,
Like a forensics auditor?
you were like, Conan the Barbarian, big muscly, has a big sword. You're
all right, settle down.
The intelligent side of Conan the Barbarian, with the big pencil, or
Conan didn't have an intelligent side.
The opposite of the barbarian. You're the
nerd.
Not the nerd. Yeah. So when you went to college, did you have a friend who tricked a girl into being his girlfriend in like a bouncy house? Just wondering. Just random questions.
That's from the years, and you're really too well behaved to say it. I think you said that you had a pocket protector because they made a ton of sense, and you want to protect my pocket.
Yes.
Right.
You were an IT auditor. Is there like a secret auditor room where they have like a statue to the IT auditor?
Does that just stand for like hacker, college hacker?
Part of that was ethical hacking, and there kind of is a pecking order. You have CPAs, financial auditors. They're kind of the top-notch folks, and then somewhere way down is IT auditor. They're the ones that you usually don't let out of their house, out of the closet, because they're just so focused and nerdy.
They're rabid animals.
But you set one
tear
of those
the
off.
City down put it on fire because they're crazy people.
Those folks in a divorce, and my goodness, sometimes they can find money and stuff in any type of lawsuit. If you've got the ability to hack. They called it ethical hacking. Is that right?
Yes, white hat hacking or ethical hacking. Yeah, and these are the guys you love to make fun of, but boy, when you need them, they are
You
as
need
good as
'em.
gold. They are just everything. And the weird thing is, and this is totally nerdy, I wanted to be an accountant when I was in high school.
Oh my.
I mean, who wants that? Sure, I did sports and stuff, but I wanted to be an accountant. That's really a weird. I get that. And then when I went to college and got my master's in accounting and professional auditing with an emphasis in IT auditing, and then I went and worked in for a public accounting firm, one of the largest in the world, and absolutely loved the IT audit aspect of it because it's so much. It goes in deep and it goes and it provides more comfort than just recalculating you just summarize all of the values on the page and it adds up and yeah, that's good. But I actually went into the systems. I looked at the computer systems, at the physical security around them, the password management programs. How did they change the programs? What are the controls around that? What if there's a flood in the data center? All sorts of things. And I got to go audit JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and California Institute of Technology, and look at the huge Cray computers and make sure that they're secure. And
there's an investigative side that's almost like the law enforcement side.
You didn't go on to the desert with Jack Parsons, did you? Just making.
I can't tell you that.
Oh.
Yeah. But there was one time when I was on a forensic audit, and it was a company down in Southern California, and we met in a hotel room before basically going in the front door unannounced, and they swept the room for bugs to make sure nobody was there. We were working in conjunction with the FBI, and then we drove up in unmarked cars and went through the front door. We found the person who was the suspect. Asked them to leave the room, confiscated their machines, brought them back to our own office, and then did forensic analysis on the machines and found that they had in fact altered the system to not total all of the numbers properly and take the difference and swipe it into their own personal account. So those nerdy IT auditors and forensic auditors, yeah, they're worth their weight in gold, and that's something that I would
movie Office Space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what theme music did you play in your head while
they
you
just used pennies for every transaction, but it turned into millions.
half a penny? What music do you play in your head when you're cruising in an unmarked car? And
What do you mean? He's probably nervous.
Oh
yeah.
Knock warrant, people die with those.
That'd be cool stuff. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun.
You think it's Mission Impossible or?
You have to.
Yeah.
Wow.
I heard a good song by Linkin Park today that would have worked well with that. Lots of screaming. It was very nice.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of screaming, how's the campaign trail? How's that been for you?
Speaking
of
You're probably exhausted. You've been everywhere.
Yeah, I've been to every county. And we have such a beautiful state. I love the state and I love the people. And that really is invigorating. I'm actually doing quite well. My voice is a little tired, but it's going well. I had no idea that it was going to be like this. And I've run 3 campaigns at the county level by myself, but there's just no way I could do that at the state level. It's a whole ball game, and sometimes I feel like I'm understanding maybe 30% of what's really going on. But I've really loved it.
Partisan? Is yours the partisan race in Weber?
Yes.
So at least you've got the platform of the party down and you understand like the party's convention system and all of that.
Oh, and I love the system. I'm a product, a story of the convention system. I was born and raised in Sandy, and then worked out of state after college, and then came back in 2002, and I moved up to Ogden, and that's when I decided to get involved in government. I was teaching at a private school. We focused on, we taught Cleon Skousen curriculum, and we focused on civic engagement and principles of liberty. And I thought, I'm sure talking a lot about this, but I'm not really doing anything. And so I went and volunteered to be a planning commissioner for our little town in far west Utah. And then I went to caucus meeting, and it was me and four grandmas. And we got started, and one said, I nominate Ricky to be precinct chair. And the other one said, I second it. And the third one said, I move nomination cease. And then the fourth one said, let's call for a vote. And like that, I said, what is a precinct chair? I don't even know. And
then they did it for delegate too?
Yeah, they made me a county delegate, they made me a state delegate, and I thought, you know what? I better make sure that I still believe in the platform and the GOP platform. So I went and looked, I read the GOP platform, studied it. I read the Democratic platform and studied it. And frankly, it took the first sentence on each of them that convinced me or reaffirmed my decision to remain a Republican. The first sentence of the platform for GOP is, we affirm our belief in God and that our rights come from God. And the Democrats talked about something about economic equity or something, that had nothing to do with our founders.
They line it out. They're like, we want to be big tent and we want to accept everyone in, and we only want everyone to come in and everybody flowery and happy. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's how you manage a world.
Well, no, but every convention practically they always bring up the vote to actually keep God out of their platform. And I think when you look at that, there's such a vast difference. When God's in your platform, then you value life, you value the inalienable rights, that the government's not the one handing you your privilege to own a gun and those things. You're born with those rights. So
that's right.
You're right. Right from the very first sentence, it can say a whole lot about a party, because I don't believe in equity. It's not the same as equality. There's no way to guarantee it without someone losing.
Yep, that's right. And frankly, if you know where your rights come from, you understand the proper role of government, which is to protect those rights, to secure those blessings of liberty. And anytime government starts to go outside of those bounds, that's when we need to put our foot down and say, look, this, I can't do this as a private citizen. Why? I've given my authority to you, temporarily elected official. Why should you be able to do it if I can't? It's crucial.
Sorts of justice now with what's happening at the DOJ, and we're watching, people break the laws all the time with the border, and we're seeing Trump basically just get all these charges brought up. How's he going to get a fair trial? We're watching in real time a clown world that is stopped being funny, and now it's just turned into terrifying. Because clowns are scary anyway, but
that's right.
But here you're running for a seat that could hopefully keep Utah on somewhat of a sane path. And John has done a great job, and I really feel like both the candidates in this race are highly qualified and highly strong individuals. I'm talking about you in third person, but this seat, this office, it has to be held by someone who is strong, who is willing to stand alone against even our own government, because it's especially our own government, because Utah is not free from having the issues that are happening outside our borders. It's one vote away. It's a few policies away from us being in the same boat where we just look back and go, wait a minute, what did they do wrong?
Well, not just that. The next census, California is going to get a couple extra congressmen, congresspeople. I'm sorry, California, congressers or zits, whatever. And New York is probably going to get a few, because they're swelling their numbers.
So will Texas. So will Arizona.
Texas. We'll see how that one goes. I know it's always threatened it'll be blue, whatever. I don't know. Maybe.
Then again, about like the auditor's role. I mean, you've got to be protecting the people. You've got to be protecting the people from the government. And we are a really great state. And we've got an amazing state. And the best thing about this state is the people, in my opinion, the communities. So
and the corn.
To have an auditor that can actually stand up for me and in my little township when I feel like I'm getting railroaded by this agency that doesn't really understand, or yeah, this happened and they don't realize that your policy is why this happened. You need to fix this. And now you turn around and charge us 104% in each department. So it's 208% more in taxes I'm paying. But
Yeah.
we need to have a reliable person in this seat that can be available to the people and reachable and accountable.
Yeah, and that is absolutely true. And I think John's done a great job. You know, I didn't mention this earlier when talking about the endorsements and contributions. John Dougal, I think, is the epitome of objectivity, independence, and force. He raised $80,000 when he ran for state auditor. And frankly, he needed to, because he had an opponent that was entrenched and was well funded. But John, what I love about it is he maintained his independence, and I totally respect that. And that's exactly what we need. We need someone at that state auditor's office who isn't afraid to be the bulldog, who has the relationships with others so that they know it's not personal, and who has the smarts and the experience to go in and look at organizations and be able to see not just the red flags when they look at their finances, but the pink handkerchiefs. They need to be able to see the small signs so that they can dig and keep going.
And potentially you could actually, those little handkerchiefs could actually save taxpayers by saying, hey, look, if you've got a potential here to have this and this happen, you might want to get your policies in check, or we'll be visiting you in a year because you've had embezzlement or something else. Again, looking out for the agency that you're helping or you're auditing, but you're helping them, but you're helping the taxpayer. And that relationship has to be built, and it has to be built on trust. And so you've got to be the squeakiest, cleanest candidate in this whole, of all the races. Our auditors have to be the ones that are have the most integrity, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right on. That's crucial. And was it Mark Twain that said, as soon as people talk about how honest they are, I start counting the silverware?
He had the best sayings.
And humility goes a long way. Humility does go a long way. And I think that Frugal Dougal, as he's known, he was so supportive of our county, and he's been so supportive of, party chairs, but just regular citizens have been able to call him up, and he listens. And Judge Judy says you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. You're meant to listen before you speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're quoting Mark Twain. I'm quoting Judge Judy. I think this sounds really great.
Who do I get a quote now? R. Lee Ermey. Anyways, let's take a second and talk about your website. I'm going to throw it up here on the old screen. And so to go to your website, it's www.rickyhatch.com.
That's it. Very original, I know.
Yeah, you're laying it out, and you got quite a few endorsements in here. Well, that's you, isn't it? And then,
that's me. I endorsed myself.
Okay. So you got a few endorsements. So if anyone has any questions, they can go there and check it out. Go into the About Ricky, humana, talk about who you are. But then you get to the important stuff. You got the contact information where you can dial in there and contact, and then you've got obviously the donate button.
Yep.
So if you want to support Ricky, you can go in there and donate.
Yeah.
But if you're undecided and we haven't formulated the questions that you want to hear from him, dive in there. He's got his phone number and his email address.
I want people to understand, though, how seriously important this job is. And this is a job interview, of course. Any one of you delegates that are meeting candidates, you are doing a job interview. But this job is the job that is going to be the overwatch of the people you're electing. And departments that are being created. And we talk all the time about unelected bureaucrats and the power they hold over all these different agencies, both in the state of Utah and in the federal government. And we need to have watchdogs that are going to dive into these agencies and figure out what's going on when there's a question. And if you find that you believe in a candidate, and again, we say this all the time, and maybe you can't afford to donate, but get in touch with candidate, wear his t-shirt at convention, or
donate
make
time,
some phone calls, volunteer. Did you get signatures, Ricky, or are you convention only?
No, I've never gathered signatures. I think the delegates really are best poised to vet the candidates. That's how I got elected in Weber County, and I think it's events like this and interviews. I've got a virtual town hall at 8:00 tonight. That's really where the deep vetting goes, and you just can't get that in a direct primary.
Where do people go if they want to join in on this virtual town hall?
If they go to my website and click on the events tab,
okay.
It's there. It's just a Zoom meeting.
Awesome.
Another thing on my website that I didn't talk about, but it's on the About Ricky page. There's a list of books.
I saw that when I was scrolling through it earlier.
And I love reading. I've read probably about, 400 books in the past 30 years. So I'm not a super heavy reader, but I love reading. And these books have influenced me. There are a couple books by Cleon Skousen, who I studied personally under when I ran my private school.
You got the Fourth Turning on there. Oh boy.
Yeah. That's
Fourth Turning, which is all the big news right now. You got, of course, Bastiat's The Law, very important book.
Yeah, and there's
5,000 Year Leap.
Good to Great is a management book on leadership. It's all about leadership, which was really well researched. I loved Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. That talked about how to bring a civilization out of slavery or out of bondage and really help them thrive. It was a fantastic book. So
if only we would have followed that as a nation.
That's why I love it. I was like, what are we in bondage to today? And I really thought we're in bondage to leisure. We love our leisure time, and we don't use it to better our neighbor. Well, not always. We focus on more entertainment than we do on civic service. And I think, we don't have to just be civil servants and just contribute. We can have fun too. But boy, if as a society, each one of us spent an extra 2 hours a week focusing, learning about governance, learning about our Constitution, or serving in a political or a governmental kind of capacity, God, that would just transform our nation.
Imagine if everyone spent an hour a week in outreach just focused on how do I help our homeless problem or our drug addiction problem. Imagine the shakeup we could have, because they always talk about, why was it better, in the 40s and 50s? And maybe it wasn't, but everyone had kind of they felt a civil responsibility to their neighbor. They carried this responsibility. The community, you got shunned if you were a dirtbag. And now if you're a dirtbag, we give you a TV special on MTV and you can go and do your stuff.
That's right. And when we have problems, we run to the government for help, when really we should be asking our neighbors and our churches and civic or nonprofits or charitable organizations.
Yeah, we need to bring back Rotary clubs.
Yep, exactly.
But FDR killed those.
Thing that I was having a conversation with, I think, my husband the other day is that the American people, we have got all the education we could possibly ever imagine, all the information we could possibly imagine at our fingertips. And yet we get caught in these vortexes of never ending videos that are 30 seconds long and these short quips. And if people it's like, we don't know, Americans don't know what pain is. We really don't. Even the poorest among us are usually watching the news from a flat screen.
Well, obesity is our number one killer.
A cell phone. And so we don't really know yet what pain is. And we also don't realize that politics is in every facet of our lives. Every facet, it kind of comes down to politics. It can be in almost everything. So you're right. By getting to know what civics is, just being a voter, just educating yourselves on the issues, just taking that time rather than scrolling through TikTok or whatever, take the time to get to know each member of your representatives that are in your county and then your state and how they're voting. What do they know that you want them to know about the issues affecting you? All these things would be so huge to better representation if more people didn't just watch a snippet of what someone candidate said or an argument what candidates say.
Hold on, I thought it was about what Taylor Swift thought.
Get to know how the sheriff affects your life, how the county auditor, how the clerk, what facets of your life do all these jobs work, and then volunteer on election night to work in in-person voting if that's what you want. Volunteer in the clerk's office. There's so many things that you can do because the government at the end of the day is in every facet. Politics is in every facet. And people should be civically, they should give their time civically. Even if it's something like knocking on doors to let people know where voting stations are going to be.
Yep.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? So you've read The Fourth Turning. I've read The Fourth Turning. Love the book. It's interesting. In the end, they kind of give that prescription how to avoid catastrophe. The steps that the different generations need to do. What are your thoughts on how we have done? Because this book came out in the 90s. So we've been able to digest this for a couple minutes. What are your thoughts? Do you think they've given a prescription that the boomers need to relinquish some power and relinquish some financial grip that they've had on the nation to avoid catastrophe? Gen Xers, they were kind of like, I don't know, you guys are savages, just, don't poop on the carpet. And then, the generations after that, Alpha and all those guys. But how do you think, if you look around your community and the nation and the state, do you think that we have we molded that, or do you think that maybe we're a little behind?
I think we're behind. And it's been probably 20 years since I've read that book. And there's a new book out. Well, I don't know how new it is, but it's called The Fourth Turning is Here.
Yeah.
I haven't read that.
I haven't read it yet either. Both guys didn't write it because the one guy's dead. But the other guy's still alive. He wrote it with someone else.
And I'm worried. I think we're behind. I think we're, unless we make some structural changes to the form of government and our appetite for, I'll call it socialism. That's too broad of a term, but our appetite for government making our lives better, when really they just need to be protecting our rights.
They need to get out of their way.
It's that insatiable appetite for more help and for more governmental involvement. We've got to stop. We have to stop that reliance.
It's the nanny state. And once you give, it's 10 times harder to take it away. Because, you could say, look, we're going to cut Social Security in this many years. And if we don't do it a certain way that's smart and we try to cover bases, someone's going to lose out. But if we don't do anything now, it's just going to be gone. Yep. And then we have no preparation. Everybody's like, oh no, what just happened? But people panic at the mere thought. And then they're not just panicking, but they become indignant because people like me and you, we've paid into it our whole lives. But is it waiting for us at the end? And we pay, are you going to pay me back? Are you going to put this in? People become indignant. And so, yes, and it was taken at gunpoint again. You didn't get a choice. And it's got borrowed from by our own government So it's our own government's fault that it's dying. Had they never touched it, maybe it could have sustained itself, but it became a Ponzi scheme anyway.
Well, I wonder.
But what I'm getting, my final point is, once you give that to anything to someone, taking it away is near impossible.
Yeah. I wonder if, and because they were writing about this, and every year the general government absorbs more responsibilities, and they're not as contactable as your local government is. And I wonder if that's part of the problem. And both those guys were what you would call kind of big government minded guys. You could tell, especially in that final announcement, but I don't fault them for that. Another thing I would suggest you that I found interesting, maybe you want to add to your list, is Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind, because that gives you an insight into how both parties and libertarians, the weird middle people, think, what they think about, what draws them in, and that is an excellent read, and it's something that after you read it, you view your opponents differently. You understand them and view them differently. It gives you a sense of compassion, if you will.
I'm totally adding that to my list. I haven't heard of that book. So, thank you for that. The Righteous Mind.
Yeah.
Well, we've got only a minute or so left with you. So tell us
blow us out.
Tell us what we want to know about you that we
What's
don't
your
know
hobbies?
That we want to know yet.
Are you in a band? Play guitar? What do you got?
Where's your pocket protector right now?
Oh, it's coming tomorrow.
He's got a glass case on the wall in case of emergency.
No, in my head you do. You have them. You have one in the wall, and your first pocket protector. Then you have one in every drawer of the house, and then your wife has to buy you shirts with pockets. Otherwise, you have to carry it in your pocket.
Yeah, I'm lost. They need pant pocket protectors. I want to do that.
Hey, Dougal had his Frugal Dougal. You should make marketing team your pocket protector. I'm not even kidding.
That's right. Well, and really, the pocket protector is really, to close, that's the function of the state auditor's office. And I honestly think at this time and in this place, given our situation, we need a pocket protector. We need a nerdy auditing CPA who's been doing this for decades, who has the objectivity, the CPA code of ethics, the independence necessary to make the hard decisions, but the relationships to help make sure that we're not just coming down as a hammer. We're helping these other entities and those that are doing things maybe incorrectly or inefficiently, we're helping them do it better, because that's, in the end, it's those relationships that make government more efficient and more effective. So it's really, you need a pocket protector, you need a nerd, you need an auditor who has been doing it for 30 years. That's my spiel.
Did you have to step down as clerk auditor to run for this office, or are you able to run and still serve?
I can run and still serve, and it's been killing me this week as I've ramped up my campaigning to not be able to play. It is play to be able to focus so much on my job, because I put in 50, 60-hour weeks every week, and I love them. Love serving. So that's a long way of saying I don't have to give that up, because that election is in 2 years, and if I decide to run again, if I lose this race, and hallelujah, I get to keep doing what I love, which is serving the people of Weber County. And
you kind of got the best of both worlds, huh?
Mm.
Yeah, it really is.
Other than for your poor county chair who would have to plan a special election because somebody bowed out early. That doesn't happen so easily, sir.
Yeah, you are totally right. And it's a big pain. And people have already started contacting me about, who are you going to have replace you?
Oh.
Are you interested in me? And I said, look, that is way far off still. Let's focus on the convention and get that done and taken care of. Then we can worry about this stuff.
Well, I'm excited that you have been in doing this for your county, and of course the county delegates would then have to help you find your replacement. But I appreciate that you like the caucus convention system and that you're supporting it. And what about your family? Tell us a little bit about your family.
Oh, my family. So my wife, she, a couple of years ago, I said, oh, this is really funny. Someone came and said I should run for state auditor. And she said, oh, you totally need to run for state auditor. And then you need to become our governor and then become our president. She said, you would be the best president. We need you.
I can hear the sarcasm.
Oh, no, she really thinks so. She thinks I should be president. And, there is no chance in Hades. State, I never had any intentions of running statewide.
She loves it. She loves the idea.
Yeah. And she hates politics. But she knows me and she's fully on board and supportive. She says, what can I do? How can I help? And, you do whatever you need and buy whatever you need and for the campaign and let's get it done. So she's great.
Your own wife will vote for you. That says a lot.
Oh, very good. Well, everyone, this is Ricky Hatch. Go and check out his website. But even if you're decided on the other person, it's a good idea to go check it out. And that's rickyhatch.com. Go check it out.
I love that you've added the books that you've read because that is something I'm always interested in about a candidate.
That's an outstanding collection. Bastiat's The Law, The Fourth Turning.
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I'd like to see Man, Economy, and State added to that, but that's a side note,
And The Golden Arch.
That's for the super nerds out there. Those crazy libertarians, the autistic people. But anyways, but I like that. I like that you're throwing credit to these are some of the notions that have built my worldview. So you remember, got even less miserable, whatever. That's what I said. But you even got that in there, which I think is a good intellectual look of a government that's run amok, that has forgotten about its people.
Oh, look at you.
No, I know.
Pretending not to know what it is. You going to sing too?
I've never seen the show. I've just kind of did a read through of the script. But anyways, no, I like that. So rickyhatch.com, go check him out. Ricky, close us out with one last word. Say goodbye, whatever you want to do.
And it was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for supporting our convention and being there to meet our delegates. That means a lot.
Thanks, Holly and Jared. What a fun discussion and what a great project that you have. I'd put the campaign aside. You're the epitome of breaking the cycle, Alexander Tytler's cycle, as explained in The Fourth Turning. You're the ones that are pushing against that and making sure that our nation survives. And we're really at a critical point. So thank you. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And have a wonderful night, everyone. We'll see you on Friday. We've got
I'll see you at convention.
Yes,
Ricky.
we'll see you at convention on Saturday, but we got Gout on Friday, and
we'll reach out to another candidate on Friday.
Yeah, possibly got another candidate. He's on the hook, but we'll see if we can get him to latch. Ricky, thank you again. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, and thank you for your
thank your wife for sacrificing you on the altar of freedom.
That's right. You're welcome. She says you're welcome. Thanks.
You have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you. You too. We'll see you.